Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
It was just overwhelming. I had this dream of what I wanted to see, and it overwhelmed me, and it all actually made me a little fearful back in my immature little brain. You know, I had this image of what I wanted, and all it did at that point was, it was slightly discouraging. Not nobody's fault, but it was so big that I was overwhelmed by it. And I'm so grateful for the process I've had the past few years to hash it out.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. I'd like to take a moment to thank you for listening and to let you know how much I appreciate you joining me on this show every week. If you've missed any episodes, you can listen to all of our interviews at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. Also, be sure to tune in to hear my upcoming conversations with legendary bassist singer Will Lee, actor, comedian, singer Robert Klein, Italian saxophonist Johnny Vancini, choreographer, singer, actress Tony Basil, and Emmy Award-winning composer, guitarist Snuffy Walden, just to name the few of the guests that are going to be coming up in the next month or two. I'd also like to thank the companies that help me sound my best, whether I'm performing live or in the studio recording and producing music. Blue Microphones, Taylor Guitars, Seymour Duncan Pickups, Mesa Boogie Amps, D'Addario Strings and Planet Waves, Motu Digital Performer, IK Multimedia, and Exotic Effects. So often, I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is singer-songwriter, trombonist Aubrey Logan. Known throughout the world as the Queen of Sass, Aubrey Logan has appeared on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, American Idol, the Goldbergs, and with Pharrell Williams at the Grammy Awards. She has toured extensively as a guest artist with Postmodern Jukebox. She's featured in over 150 shows throughout Europe and the U.S., including their recently taped PBS special. With millions of YouTube views, she's just finished her first full album of songs entitled Impossible, which reflects her uniquely fun and quirky style. Released independently, Impossible immediately charted at number 2 on the iTunes Jazz list, and it also got a spot on Billboard. Complete with the first place award-winning song Pity Party, which won in the USA Songwriting Competition, Aubrey is touring with songs from Impossible all around the U.S. and Europe as we speak. Please welcome my guest today, Aubrey Logan. Welcome to the show, Aubrey.
Thank you, Terry, for having me. This is awesome. I love your radio show already, and we haven't even started.
Yeah, and it's just going to get better as we talk and share stories. And thank you for that. It's a really fun show to do because we have a lot of freedom to talk about the creative process, to talk about all the cool things that you are doing, and also just your perspective on life in the music industry, both music and personally. So I want to start with a couple of personal questions. Before I do that, though, I want to thank you for making the time. We've been trying to schedule this for a while, and you've been jumping between recording, touring, photo sessions for your new upcoming tours, and so I'm so happy to have you here today. Thanks.
Oh, thanks for having me. Really, I'm happy to be here.
Great. So my first question to you is personal, but not serious. when did you first learn to do a one-handed cartwheel while holding the microphone?
Okay, I first learned a one-handed cartwheel when I was 9 years old in gymnastics. And I did gymnastics as a kid for a very short amount of time because I was performing in musical theater productions. And I just had an affinity for, I don't know, going upside down. So I did some gymnastics to kind of supplement the musical theater roles. And we were doing cartwheels, and then I just put my left hand behind my back and did it with one hand. That's the story on that.
It's a great part of your show. So I really enjoy that you don't limit your performance to just music. Your bio claims that you are what? Go ahead.
Oh no, I get you. If it was just music, yeah, it'd get a little boring, I guess. But that's a long story.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Your bio says it claims that you are the Queen of Sass. Can you elaborate on that?
Somebody else decided that I was the Queen of Sass, and I just decided to go along with it. I think someone said that at a show in London when I first performed there, and somebody wrote that in a review of my show. And so, you know, I think that there are jokes in the show, and the songs themselves even are quite tongue in cheek at times. Actually, probably more than not. And because there's a lot of darkness in the world, and if you can't make fun of it a little bit, you know, I just think you got to keep it light. But that turned into I suppose, a brand of sass that someone recognized, and it just didn't quite ever go away, which I'm perfectly happy with. So yeah, there's a funny little quirky, dorky sense of humor that I bring to my shows because I'm there, because I just happen to be there. So of course the quirky, dumb sense of humor is going to be there too. And so I really have a ball on the shows, and I think I'm being myself, and it's getting even easier to do shows day by day because I'm kind of letting go of any sort of pretense. You know, it's hard to get up on a stage and perform in front of people and you don't know how they want you to be. But after a while, that question was the wrong question to ask. The question isn't, what do they want me to be? I think people are there to see and be in the room with me, and not be in the room with somebody that they're fabricating or that I'm fabricating.
I agree. And I think non-performers kind of forget that there's a lot that goes into walking onto a stage and sharing your music and also making it personal and personable and connected and connective. You know, so, but I think the secret is exactly what you're saying. You want to be yourself, you know, or, you know, not necessarily show every part of yourself, but a couple of parts of yourself that really help, I don't know, put some icing on the cake of the rest of the music and the performance. Because, you know, when people go see an Aubrey Logan show, they really want to know more about who you are, because they're there for a reason. They've heard your music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now they want to find out more. And
yeah. Well,
but
in
there's
an
art to that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there absolutely is an art to that. And you know, in my world, I'm a little backwards, I suppose. Well, I don't know if I'm backwards. I think a lot of artists are this way. And then there's there's kind of two camps. And this is a generalization, of course. Not everybody's this black and white, but there are recording artists, and their main art is recording. That is their bread and butter, and that is where they live, and that is what they're most passionate about, is creating, you know, a product that can stand on its own forever and ever. I actually love recording, and I learned to love it more this year than ever, or last year, I suppose, than ever. But my primary art is the stage and live performance. And so I don't want to say that the album is secondary, because it was very special to make, but in a way it's not the main squeeze. The main squeeze is the show. The album just is there as, almost a business card. It's like, here's kind of what I do, and come to the show to really see it.
Yeah. But I'm glad to hear that you are falling in love with recording as well. because it's such a cool way to express ourselves.
Yeah. It is. It's a cool way to express yourself because you're in a studio. There's nobody around. Well, typically there's nobody else around. There's no audience. You're really putting together, you're building something in secret, and really making sound in a can and trying to make it be beautiful. And you have a team of people in many cases mastering it and producing it, et cetera. And that really became fun. I mean, I was stacking harmonies and vocal harmonies and putting trombone on things that, I can't always do because you can't do 8 things at once on a stage, but you certainly can in a studio. And that's a beautiful kind of art all to itself. So I did fall in love with the process for sure.
So I think it's really important to talk about your family for a moment and your early life growing up in Seattle, since music was such a strong part of your upbringing. Can you tell us about your family?
Yeah. So I was raised by 2 music educators. My mom was a high school choir director in middle school. My dad, a high school band director, and high school principal. So they are deep into the education of young people, especially in music. And so I grew up around a lot of kids. Even though I didn't have siblings, I still feel like, my parents had a lot of kids that they loved and mentored and saw through the growth process. So I lived vicariously through that. The thing that really got me into so many types of music was their musical taste. We didn't sit down and do lessons together. That would have never happened. I mean, can you imagine a 12-year-old girl trying to take voice lessons from her mom? I mean, that's a disaster. So we would, instead, we'd be cleaning the house together or something, which I was required to help do. And I'm grateful for that. And my dad would be playing Beethoven and then Stevie Wonder and then the Eagles and then Dolly Parton and then Johnny Cash and then Count Basie. And none of that was weird for me because when you're a kid, nothing's weird. Everything's just what it is. And so I grew up with this eclectic musical taste because of what they listened to. And of course, my dad's a great trumpet player. My mom's an excellent singer. So that level of standard of excellence was pretty high right off the bat for me. And again, when you're a kid, my parents are like these amazing musicians and people are like, oh, your parents are amazing. And I'm thinking they're just my parents. That's how music sounds. Right. Right. And so that's what I'm most grateful for is just that exposure and that immersion that I had right from a really young age. It wasn't until later in life that I realized it was weird to like country music and R&B. I didn't know that was strange until later. Somebody pointed out to me that those styles, don't usually have the same audience. And I'm going, well, I'm one person and I like both. so that came much later in life.
And, I completely understand what you're saying because we have that in common, that both of our parents were educators. My mom and dad were teachers as well. And I had forgotten that we had shared that. But you had the extra bonus of your parents being music teachers. Mine were not. So, I think that's just so, it's cool because it gave you the freedom. And I can see that in how natural it is for you to mash up a song and when, in some of your videos and recordings where you'll flip it from one song to another and it seems effortless, but more importantly, it just feels easy and natural and completely makes sense. And now I understand why, because that's what you grew up listening to in the house is one style leading to the next, to the next, to the next. So you haven't really been genre specific in your music. You're a musician.
Just trying to be, not trying, just being as close to me as I could possibly be. Yeah. That would mean blending styles and genres. And that's another thing, back when I was a teenager, I got first exposed to Coldplay, for example. And here we are, this is a pop group that is absolutely mainstream, 100% on the top 40 all the time and marketed as such. But I'm hearing symphony behind them, and I'm hearing movie score-esque arrangement behind their pop songs. And I'm kind of starting, and by the time I was a teenager, I was into arranging, and I was, starting to get into all this and identifying, they're just putting old stuff on this new sound, and it sounds completely commercial and listenable and beautiful. But yeah, they're blending styles. So what? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That absolutely makes sense.
That's one example. Yeah.
Do you perform with your parents at all? Have you brought them up on stage when you're playing in Seattle or when they come to your shows?
I haven't yet, but it is a bucket list item of mine for sure, especially now that they retired and from teaching full time, and now they play so much more. My mom sings gigs almost nightly now. I'm going, what you can't come see me in LA because why?
Because she's working more than we are.
Right. She's working more than me. So now that they live in the Phoenix area during the winters now, so they're singing and my dad's playing trumpet and drums in different bands, these various bands. And now that they're not teaching, because teaching music, not only are you working at school all day long, you're also doing concerts after school. And if you're a band director, doing football games with the band. And so they're really like 12-hour days. So now they're just gigging all the time. So I think the time is right for them to have a guest appearance, whether it's on an album or on a show. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun night when that happens.
I look forward to that. That's going to be great. We're heading into our first commercial break. We've got about a minute. Can you tell everybody where they can find out more about you? Let them know your website and YouTube and Twitter.
Mm-hmm. It's Aubrey. AubreyLogan.com will lead you everywhere you need to go. If you go to the main website, you can click tour and see where I'm playing, and the links to YouTube are there too. It's youtube.com/AubreyLoganMusic, and its Instagram is Aubrey_Logan. Twitter's the same, and Facebook is kind of the big one. It's Facebook.com/AubreyLoganMusic.
Thanks for doing that. We're also going to put those up on our website so that you can all go find them again. You don't have to memorize that. When we come back, we're going to talk about the new record, which I'm really excited about. I want to talk about traveling, practice and discipline and having fun. And great. And also, I want to talk about your husband, whose birthday it is today. So
that's right.
Happy birthday, Chris. And I want to invite everybody to stick around, and we will be right back with Aubrey Logan.
Serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
This is John Carruthers, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Woolman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Sitting solo, I'll call you on the phone so you can tell me what I want to hear. Well, I'll be bitching, moaning, whining, moaning, watching all my friends disappear. My pity party's over, and I'm sorry it went so long. Too bad you couldn't make it, but it really wasn't all that fun. Whoa, misery sucks to be me.
Welcome back. We're listening to Aubrey Logan singing her song Pity Party. And, you know, I love that song, but I also love the video for Pity Party. And I want people to know that song recently won the USA Songwriting Competition, placing first in the jazz category and third place overall. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I was pretty surprised by that. It was a real treat.
So what inspired you to write? What inspired you to write that song?
Well, you know, artists are funny. We take ourselves really seriously, and we get in our heads, and we go to that dark place. And you know what? It's just too much. It's too dark. It's too serious. And if you don't have a little fun and get over yourself, then you're going to crash and burn. So the song is called Pity Party, and it's about having a pity party. You feel sorry for yourself, and that's funny. You know, when I was a little girl and I would whine, I have these recollections of when I would whine, my parents would either strategically ignore me, that was their discipline of my whining, or they'd whine back at me and make fun of me, which I'm not sure if that's amazing parenting or just their amazing parenting. And I hated it. Oh man. Oh, it made me so mad. But in a way it worked. And so this is my attempt at making fun of myself when I'm sad and too much in my own head. And, you talk about things that I think people might understand, like eating a pint of ice cream by yourself in the dark, or, and then it gets a little deeper in the second verse, or it gets a little more specific in the second verse when I like to do things myself, and I like to do things my way, and I like to do things right. But that can have its own issues when it turns out you might have too big a task and you need somebody to help you, and you just got to be okay with it. And they might need to do it their way, and that's more efficient. So get over yourself, Aubrey. That's what the song's about.
Well done on that. It's a really fun song.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just was smiling all the way through watching the video when it first came out. I really got a kick out of it. So let's talk about you and your husband, Chris, again. First of all, I want to wish Chris a very happy birthday. You and Chris met in music school when you were. Oh, you're welcome.
We did.
You were both in music school together at Berkeley, and I want to know, did you know right away that you two were destined for marriage when you first met him?
No. We did not. He's a bass player, and so working backwards, he's a bass player, and he plays pop, rock, really solid, not a jazz player. So that's why he's not in my band. But he has amazing musical taste, and obviously been exposed to a lot of great music. And then he became a software developer. And that's his passion. And like a lot of people who end up going to Berkeley, they go, wow, all of you music people are crazy. And I don't have that kind of crazy in me to do this alone for the rest of my life. And that was Chris's revelation when he went, but he still obviously loves music and supports music, clearly. But no, we did not like each other right away. We liked each other as friends, but it made it, when I started dating his roommate for an entire year, that sort of just dampened the chances of Chris and I getting involved. So after that, I got my heart a little bit broken by a sweet guy who happened to be a really great person who happened to be his roommate. Chris had right around that time moved into an apartment with another friend of mine. So yet again, I was at Chris's place all the time. And at that point, we hit it off really quickly and became instant friends, which we weren't even really. We weren't even really friends before. And that friendship, that's when at that point, yeah, I would say it was immediate. I would say it was pretty obvious that if I'm going to marry someone, it's going to be him. Because we, on the surface, we may seem different, but on the inside, everything's the same. Our goals are the same and our thoughts are the same. And we actually rarely disagree. And I don't think that's a requirement to get married to somebody, but it's definitely how we are.
Did you move out to LA and then get married, or did you get married in Boston?
Well, we got married in Seattle. We had the wedding in Seattle, but we lived in Boston. And lived there for a year after graduating Berklee, really, and then moved to Los Angeles.
So I did the same thing. I stayed in Boston for a year after I graduated, and performed and studied and exercised and kind of figured out what my next move was going to be. Was that what you were doing?
Well, it kind of was. I had graduated Berklee in I think 2010. And at that point, I was going to move to Los Angeles already, but I thought I was going to move a lot sooner. And I kind of went into a little bit of identity crisis at that point. I was 22 years old. Who doesn't go through an identity crisis when they're 22? And I was no longer in a band that I had been singing with at Berklee. I had this manager who I'd signed with who passed away. It was Solomon Burke. And he had just passed away. He was an artist, actually. He wrote Cry to Me from Dirty Dancing. Some people might recognize that. And I thought he was going to change my life. I probably had, and while he wanted to help, he's still a human being. So it wasn't going to be life-changing, but it would have been helpful. And so then I just kind of went into hiding for about a year, and then kind of kept coming back and forth to LA. And every time I came over here, I wanted to stay. And so about a year later, year and a half or so, Chris and I drove across the country and stayed here.
That's the way to do it, is to drive, because there's a metamorphosis that happens, I think, when you travel across the country, leaving your college town to where you're going to begin your professional life. That's what it was for me, watching the miles just sort of drift away behind me and heading into this big unknown, towards the West Coast. Did it feel like that for you, or not so profoundly melodramatic? Yeah.
No, that's funny. I didn't articulate it like that. It's funny you say it like that. I've never heard it put like that, but it's really, you're right. Because not only, what makes the USA so interesting is that it's huge. Yes. And it's therefore got several different climates and several different topography, landscapes. So you're first driving through pretty flat, flat but beautifully foliaged New England, and then you're like in complete nothing but corn, and then you're in desert and you're in mountains, and it's like, wow, so many changes in 10 days of, we stretched it out, but so many changes. So by the time you see your first palm tree, you're like, oh my gosh, we are not in Kansas anymore. Quite literally, not in Kansas anymore. And you see that sunset. I remember when we crossed from Arizona into California, that was a pivotal moment. I saw that sunset and I saw those palm trees. They were no longer cacti. And it was like, wow, we're here. There's hills. It's not flat. And so, that was pretty amazing. And it's funny talking about this as well, because I'm doing an East Coast tour in like 2 weeks, and we start in Atlanta, and we're going to drive basically all up and down the East Coast, and be in the car the whole time. I mean, and I've done this on a tour bus, but we're going to be driving during the daytime for this tour. And that's going to be interesting because we're just going to kind of go north the whole time in a van with my rhythm section. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a journey too, even though it's over nothing more than a 2-week period. It's going to be I think it's going to feel kind of similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for artists to do that every once in a while. When I spent a year touring with Kev Mo's band, that was one of my favorite parts, was just, second to playing, the music every night, was watching just looking forward and watching the past just fly behind me. I would even sit in the front of the bus sometimes just to kind of feel, it's almost like when a dog sticks their head out the window and just watches it go by. I mean, I wasn't sticking my head out the window, but I just that perspective, I don't know. I think it's really a really great way to just kind of check yourself and see where you are in life and where you're headed and where you want to be. And especially when you're touring, for people who haven't done that, one of the things that's very unique about it is there's no yesterday or tomorrow. You are really just in the day, because you're so you're traveling so much, and there's
to say that.
Right? Yeah, there's 6 a.m. lobby calls What's your point of view on it?
One day at a time lifestyle.
Right.
Well, I am not a live in the moment personality. I'm a type A. I live in 2019 right now, if I'm being honest. And that's not great all the time. I mean, it's one thing to be a meticulous planner, which is my comfort zone. But in this real world, that's not realistic and that's not doable. And when I'm home and I'm in one spot for quite some time, it's pretty easy to sit down and look at a calendar and look ahead. And you're always thinking ahead, and you're thinking a week ahead, and you're thinking, what am I doing next month? And you're packing for whatever trip you're going to go on. Oh, when you're on the road, screw packing for a trip in a week. You're on the trip. You're packing every day. You don't have time to think about that. You have, but what happens is naturally you're like, okay, today I'm in Knoxville. Today is all about Knoxville. Tomorrow's Asheville, but today's all Knoxville, and I'm not in tomorrow yet. It's this automatic in the moment. You're forced to be in the moment on tour. And it makes the music more fun too, because you're also in the moment more when you're playing. You have no choice.
Right, which is an extremely healthy way of moving through life.
It is.
Yeah. So in a way but we get, no, I love it. It's one of the ways that we get gifted, when we're touring, because it's brutal. It's not glamorous generally with with the travel and everything. Especially with the state of the world, it's gotten harder and harder to travel. But it's so worth it, with the performing aspect of it, sharing our music, the camaraderie and the intimacy that happens with band members. And also, again, what we're talking about, just looking at today, not thinking about so much about tomorrow, what happened yesterday. You were talking about
each audience.
Go ahead, Aubrey.
Well, each audience too has their own personality. There's, and you don't know what they're going to be until you get there.
Right.
And that's fun. And that depends on the town and depends on who's there. And so it's not just the intimacy with the band, because that is irreplaceable on a tour, but it's also, you get a variety of audiences, and it makes the shows a little different. And that's what makes it really fun.
Right. Right. So I want to circle back to something you said earlier about a little bit of an identity crisis that, right on schedule, for a young 20-year-old. But I was more interested in, or curious about, if you had a clear idea of who you were as an artist and what you wanted to accomplish at Berklee when you first arrived in Boston. Did you go in crystal clear about?
No clue. Nope. No, I knew I had a vision. somewhere in my mind. And it was always being on stage with a finished product. That finished product included songs that I wrote, songs that I covered, a trombone. It included some choreography, maybe. It included a band. It included symphonies, which I will be able to perform with some symphonies this year, actually, but we'll get to that in a minute. It included, all these things, but how to get there? Oh, no clue. Other than it was just overwhelming. I had this dream of what I wanted to see, and it overwhelmed me, and it all actually made me a little fearful back in my immature little brain. I had this image of what I wanted, and all it did at that point was, it was slightly discouraging. Not nobody's fault, but it was so big that I was overwhelmed by it. And it wasn't, and I'm so grateful for the process I've had the past few years to hash it out and see, this is harder than I thought, to put all of the pieces together to create whatever this vision is that I have. And it requires who I am as a, it requires, am I funny or sassy or not? That came later. And it was always in me, but it didn't come out on stage until later. And, all these songs that I want to write, got to write them. And then I got to let it translate them to a band and put them on paper and have people play them. And then I got to find singers and have them sing it and sing backup. And so all these, and I got to learn, and I got to play trombone and put it on my face after I sing, and all these different things. So, man, that was tough. But the journey has been figuring out how to make that actually happen. And I'm nowhere near the end goal yet, but I'm working on it for the rest of my life.
Well, yeah. And from the outside looking in, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. One artist to another. Yeah. There's a lot to it. There really is a lot to it. It's a huge commitment, and it takes a lot of confidence and courage and humor, and persistence and really believing in yourself. And, it's been really a pleasure to watch you, walk down that path, and watch the doors open for you. We are heading into our next break. When we come back, we will start by talking about your new record, Impossible. And I also want to ask you some questions with quick answers, like we'll do a speed round as well, because I want to talk about your perspective on travel and the music industry and some of the experiences that you've had. So having said that, the name of the album is called Impossible, and it's a wonderful record. And I would encourage everybody to go check it out. And it's not hard to find. If you just Google Aubrey Logan, you're going to find out everything you need to know. So stick around, and we will be right back. Thanks for joining us.
Be back.
Adam Berry, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wolf.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. Pitbullaudio.com.
Hallo alle zusammen, hier ist Chris Walden. Ich bin ein Komponist und Arrangeur und ihr hört heute Making It with Terry Wellman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Music hits me so hard it makes me say, oh my Lord, thank you for blessing me with a mind to rhyme and to hype, but it feels good when you know you're down. A super dope poking boy from the Oaktown, and I'm known as such. And this is the beat you can't touch. I told you, homeboy, you can't touch this. Yeah, that's how we living, and you know you can't touch this.
Welcome back. You're listening to Aubrey Logan. I'm Making It with Terry Wallman. And Aubrey, I'm just realizing as I'm listening to that piece, I think I always am smiling. I find myself smiling when I hear you sing and play, or when I watch you, whether it's
Thank you.
Recording or live. Thank you for that. I mean, and
That's my goal. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're hitting the mark. You're definitely hitting the mark. So
that's great.
Yeah. So your new album is called Impossible. So let's start with the obvious question, which is, how did you come up with that album title?
The album title is from my favorite song on the record. So we just titled the album the song that we love, that I love the most.
Yeah.
And it's the last track of the record. It kind of sums up my whole life up until that point. Because, artists write songs, and sometimes we stretch the truth and we tell stories, which I think is great. And we make up stories, which is a form of art that's super fun. But occasionally we write a song that is verbatim our life, period. Impossible is that. So, it applies to so many moments of time in my life. I don't know if you've ever felt defeated, that hoping for something good even felt scandalous. But I wrote the song Impossible at a time when I was terrified of failing, but even more terrified of not trying. So I'm really glad that I decided to try. And though the song starts out kind of painfully honest, the chorus is nothing but hope and nothing but positive, because it's both true. And that's the record has that mixture of tongue-in-cheek songs that I was talking about earlier, and a couple of covers that I love, like the You Can't Touch This Thing and California Dreamin', and then the rest are mostly originals. But the ending track is kind of a wrap-up, conclusion, essentially, of all of the thoughts I introduced in the record.
And what was your goal artistically when you started putting the album together?
Well, my goal was to create a cohesive story, because like we talked about at the beginning with my family and growing up with several different genres influencing me, that is absolutely reflected in the album. But the goal is it makes sense to me, but I also wanted it to make sense to the listener. And so the producer and my producer, Dale Becker, who happens to be a mastering engineer, has that job as a mastering engineer to put kind of a sealant on a bunch of different things to make it one thing. And so he came up with, having him be the producer of that record was really great, because even though there's so many different elements, there's a tie, and there's peaks and valleys that make it one cohesive story. And that was the goal. Even the song order is on purpose.
Oh, I would hope so, and expect nothing less from you.
Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, I would imagine that your process is similar to mine in making records, that I don't make final decisions on the song order until everything's recorded and mixed, so that I can really not come in with a presupposed idea of what it's supposed to be. Because sometimes there's some magic in flipping the order.
Exactly. That's you said it. I couldn't have said it better.
And which is why I'm still a huge believer in albums as well as singles. And the irony is, I just released a single with no record, But I did that because thank you so much. I'm really excited about it. It's called No Problem, and I didn't mean to do a pitch, but I will right now. And it's up on iTunes, and it did debut #1 most added on Billboard this week. So I'm really excited because I don't typically just release a single, because I'm such a strong believer in the story, the arc of a story, and the arc of making a record. I think it's so important.
Mm-hmm. It is. And yet I'm not doom and gloom about singles. I don't hate them. They're different. It's almost like, how an author could release a book and you don't know that it's going to be a trilogy, but then it sort of is. And then there's another book, and then there's another book. That is sort of how I look at singles with a lot, at least for myself. Like, so if I release a single, which I'm sure I will, really, I mean, I've released singles, but they're part of the album. But if I release a single without an album, which I'm sure I will, it's just a part of a story, and it's okay to stand alone, but it also fits into this other thing. So, and that's the new way of music. That's what's happening now. And I know a lot of people who've been around a long time really find it discouraging, and I don't at all. I see it as an opportunity. I think albums are never going to die, but singles have their value and have their place, and there's a great way you can introduce them, and I'm constantly trying to explore ways to do that, thinking about it for 2018 as well.
Right. And actually, another artist that we both know and love and is Melissa Manchester, and I've talked to her about it when we were working on her record together. And she, she basically said something that I thought was really interesting and just brought some clarity to the whole thing. It's gone full circle, because back in the 50s and 60s, things were, I mean, people made records, of course, but everything was single oriented. There's a 45 record, and there's the single, and then there's the B-side. So it's not a new concept. Yeah. And it never took away from albums and everything that we're talking about, but they had their own lives as well. So it's, it's that part of the cycle again. And I find it really exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot of things they did back then that people do now. I mean, and I play my songs live before I record them, typically. I mean, there's a few times where I won't, but that's my old schoolness, I suppose, coming out. Because yes, I'm in the jazz stream of people, but I'm writing pop songs too. Again, no surprise there with my history, but my old school, if I go if I'm sounding fresh and new, that old school vibe is still there of playing the song in front of people before they ever are recorded. And that's something I still adopt. I'm going to do it on this upcoming tour. I mean, I'm going to try new songs on this upcoming tour and see how they go, and then record them on an album in 2018, which I'm not supposed to talk about yet. Oh, well.
So we've got about 9 minutes left in our conversation. So let's do a little bit of a sort of a speed round here. Not that these questions aren't important, but there's a lot more I want to ask you. So was there any one song that exceeded your expectations in the studio when you were making this record?
Louboutins.
So everybody make a note to go check that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Turned out a lot more deep than I thought it would.
Fantastic. What was one of your favorite moments when recording this record?
Louboutins. I was just surprised by it. That song, I was just surprised by it all in general. Singing it was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be, but getting it right was really, really rewarding because it's so simple to sing, and the simplest song to sing was the hardest. And
absolutely,
stacking the trombones was just a very satisfying moment on that.
I'm going to be listening to it right after our interview. How hands-on are you regarding arranging and production?
I do all the arranging myself, and I do all of the I do it when I write. I do it while writing, pretty much. And I print out all the charts. Lately, I have some people helping me proofread. I have one person helping me proofread them, which is new. And when it comes to production time, I let everybody else do anything technical because I am not a technical person at all.
Right, and you don't need to be. You know, you don't have to do everything great.
Thanks.
Sure. You have a special announcement regarding this very cool project that you're doing with our friend Dave Koz. You want to tell everybody what that is?
Yeah, I'm going to be on the Summer Horns album too as the trombone player. And yesterday we had a photo shoot with Dave Koz and Gerald Albright and Rick Braun and Richard Elliott. And it was great. And we're going to have a ball, and we're going to go on tour together in the summer. And I can't wait. I just can't wait. So,
that's going to be amazing. And for those who don't know Summer Horns, the last album and tour was so much fun. And I know this one is going to be as well. And to add your voice and trombone playing to it is just going to be really special. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
You have a huge social media presence with millions of views on YouTube. How do you make that happen? And what's your philosophy about using social media?
Collaborate with people and play on the team. I mean, I have Scott Bradley and Postmodern Jukebox to thank for that. So the more collaboration, the better. And just do it. Just start. Just try. Because you never know who's going to like what.
Right. Speaking of Postmodern Jukebox, who you've been traveling the world with, I know some of the other singers that you sing with in the group, and I was thinking it must be really empowering traveling and sharing the stage with other strong, uniquely talented women in the band. What's that like for you?
Yes. It's not only empowering, it's 1,000% inspiring. I mean, the creative juices just run like crazy on tour. Ariana Savalas heard every single song while I was writing it. And I made sure, I don't know how many times I asked her, is this stupid? Is this stupid? Is this stupid? And it's not only what you hear from them on stage and what you get from these other women and men on stage, it's also what you get on the tour bus, just like kind of what we were talking about earlier.
Right. How do you stay healthy and fit on the road with all the traveling you do?
Oh boy, it is not easy. It's the hardest thing about tour. I think it just comes down to control what you can, because you certainly can't control. You pretty much can't control anything. Try to sleep. Try not to talk too much after the shows, for singers especially, and try to sleep as much as possible. That is the number one rule. Don't be tempted to go out and socialize every night, because it's just not worth it. It's just not worth losing your voice in the morning. Right. Eat. If there's healthy options to eat them, and eat them first, and then decide if you're going to take the Danishes and the stupid pies and the stupid ice creams that they put out. It's like, why do you have to put those out? But they do, because the caterers want to show off. They want to show off every night. So just pick, why you got to be so mean? It's just like, go to the meat, go to what you know works for you. In my case, it's meat and vegetables, and do that first and pile up on it, and then make a decision later, because
absolutely,
the food is crazy, and you just do the best you can.
Was there any one thing that you wish school could have prepared you better for in having a successful career when you went to Berklee?
I wish I would have been told that I have to run my own business, and it's going to be hard. I wish I would have had Independent Artist 101, but hindsight's 2020, and would they have really known I needed that? I don't know, but yeah, I wish I would have learned that. I wish I would have been told that.
I so agree with you, and I was just asked to consider teaching a class at USC for independent artists, And I said that I would love to do that because I think it's so important to share everything that you and I have learned by figuring it out by ourselves or being taught by, each other and surrounding ourselves with great people. And then that program fell through. They just let me know it's not going to happen, which I'm disappointed for the students. I think it's so critical to do that.
I do too. Yeah, I do too. Critical.
Let me see if I can squeeze in. We've just got a couple of minutes. Something?
Yeah.
Let me. How did you find? These are for our listeners. How did you find an agent? More importantly for our listeners, how does a new artist find an agent, manager, and choose a publicist?
I don't think you find them. I think they find you, and you make the judgment if you meet them whether or not it's a good relationship. I'm more of the side of do as much as you can on your own until you can't, and then the right people might already be there in front of your face. I wouldn't put a lot of energy on searching for that unless you know what, it's really time and I need to go bigger. I'm a bigger believer in slow and steady wins the race and don't bite off more than you can chew as far as cooks in the kitchen are concerned.
Me too. And also focus on getting great, focus on being the best you can be and then the rest.
Outgrow yourself.
You attract it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Outgrow yourself.
We have 2 minutes left in our show, and I want to ask you the closing question that I ask all of my guests. Aubrey, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Stop worrying about what you can't control. Logan. Stop it. Yeah, and focus on what you can do, which is write a song and practice the trombone. That's what I would tell myself. That's
sound advice. Do you still find time to practice trombone and vocalize every day?
I don't find time. I sometimes unfortunately run into the place where I have no choice but to practice and vocalize or I'm going to crash and burn. But I'm learning how to switch my priorities and make sure that comes first instead of later.
And in the last 30 seconds of our show, what would you like to tell our audience?
I would like to meet them. I would like to meet them on the road. And so if you can come to any of the shows on the tour, I would love to meet you. And that if your city is not on the list, that it will be eventually, and hopefully sooner than later. So if they're on AubreyLogan.com/tour, they can click that little button that says track, and then they won't miss it when I'm in their town. Because I just really like to see the faces of the people that have been supporting me. So Atlanta, Nashville, Knoxville, Asheville, Charlotte, Durham, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Bennington, Vermont, and Sacramento, and Oakland, Seattle, and Augusta, and Spokane. And I'll see you soon. But if you didn't hear your city, no matter where you are in the world, you will. And
go say hi to Aubrey, and she means it. I know she means it. So go introduce yourselves after the show. Aubrey, thanks for spending the hour with me. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a great tour.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.